The Republic of Texas lasted from 1836 to 1845, was a short-lived but influential part of the Texan and American story. The Lone Star flag, first adopted during the period, continues to serve as the state flag today. During its brief existence, the Republic faced immense challenges. Texas was a frontier society with a vast territory and diverse population. It struggled with financial difficulties, land disputes, and sporadic conflicts with both Native American tribes and Mexico. The Republic's leaders, including Presidents Sam Houston and Maribel Lamar, held differing visions for the young nation. Houston advocated for annexation by the United States, while Lamar envisioned a vast empire that would continue to wage war against Mexico and displace Native American tribes. Meanwhile, the Republic's boundaries would be a constant source of tension. The treaties of Valencia, which ended the Texas Revolution, stipulated that the Rio Grande was the boundary of Texas, but Mexico refused to recognize these treaties. In the United States, the prospect of Texas annexation was contentious. While many Southerners favored annexation, hoping to expand the institution of slavery, Northerners were hesitant, fearing the imbalance it would bring to the Union. It wasn't until President John Tyler took up the cause as part of his 1844 re-election campaign that annexation became a national issue. On December 29, 1845, Texas would be admitted to the Union as the 28th state, ending the era of the Republic. Following the incorporation of Texas into the United States, the tensions between Mexico and the U.S. escalated to a boiling point. Mexico, which had never formally recognized Texas independence, saw this annexation as an act of aggression. A dispute of the southern border of Texas. The U.S. claimed it was the Rio Grande, while Mexico argued the Nueces River added fuel to the fire. These tensions would culminate into the Mexican-American War in 1846. Although this would be short-lived, as the Americans made quick work of the Mexican armies and would eventually take control of northern Mexico. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war in 1848. It would recognize the U.S. annexation of Texas, set the Rio Grande as its southern border, and saw a vast tract of land ceded to the United States, including what is now California, Nevada, Utah, and most of Arizona. This territorial gain is referred to as Mexican cession. When annexed, Texas, a slaveholding state, tipped the balance of power in the Senate towards the South. In Texas, as in other southern states, the institution of slavery played a significant role in the economy. Cotton and sugar plantations spread across the fertile lands of eastern Texas. The entry of Texas into the Union heightened tensions between the North and the South over the issue of slavery and its expansion into new territories. These debates played out in the halls of Congress, in public meetings, and in newspapers across the nation. In February 1861, the tension would become too much, and the Texas Secession Convention voted to secede from the Union, joining 6 other southern states. In its Declaration of Secession, Texas stated that it viewed slavery as essential to its economic and social order. Even after the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, it wasn't until June 19, 1865, now celebrated as Juneteenth, that the Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston to announce that all slaves in Texas were free. The post-war Reconstruction era was a time of significant change as Texas grappled with the end of slavery and the integration of freed African Americans into social, political, and economic fabric of the state. Efforts were made to integrate freed African Americans into society. The Freedmen's Bureau was established to assist them, and Texas even saw the election of several black legislators. These include Matthew Gaines, George T. Ruby, and Norris Wright Cooney. With the plantation system in ruins, Texas began to shift its focus. The cattle industry, which had been growing during the Civil War, took center stage. Texas Longhorns, a mix of Spanish Creole stock and English cattle, were hardy and plentiful in the plains, and were driven north to railheads in Kansas along trails such as the Chisholm Trail, in what became known as the cattle drives. This era, often romanticized as the Wild West, was short-lived as the introduction of barbed wire in the late 1870s led to fence ranches, effectively ending the era of open range and cattle drives. As the 19th century closed, Texas was on the cusp of another massive change. In 1901, the Spindletop Gusher near Beaumont marked the beginning of the Texas oil boom. The discovery of oil would transform Texas, bringing unprecedented wealth and causing a population boom. Cities like Houston and Dallas grew rapidly, and the state's economy diversified with industries such as oil. The Industrial Revolution during the time was reshaping America, and Texas was no exception. Railroads crisscrossed the state, bringing goods, people, and new ideas. Manufacturing industries started to grow, paving the way for the modern Texas economy. The dawn of the 20th century transformed Texas from a largely rural and agricultural state into a leading player in the nation's burgeoning petroleum industry. The state's economy diversified, and cities like Houston, Dallas, and Beaumont continued to grow rapidly as oil money poured in. However, not all Texans shared in the prosperity. Many rural communities remained impoverished, and social and economic disparities widened. The oil boom brought with it a range of issues, including labor disputes, environmental concerns, and economic volatility due to the fluctuating oil prices. These would be exuberated in the 1930s. The economic prosperity would come to a halt with the Great Depression, followed by the ecological disaster of the Dust Bowl. These twin crises were devastating for Texans, particularly for farmers and workers in the oil industry. In response to these challenges, President Franklin Roosevelt signed into law the New Deal, which brought federal aid and infrastructure subjects to the state. These projects provided jobs and helped to modernize the Texas economy. World War II had a profound impact on Texas. With its vast open spaces, Texas became a pivotal training ground for the U.S. military. More than 1.5 million troops trained in bases located in San Antonio, El Paso, and other cities, accelerating the state's transition to an industrial and urban society. Simultaneously, the war spurred industrial growth. Shipyards in Houston and Galveston produced warships, while oil refineries worked around the clock to fuel the war effort. Texas's economy was booming, and people flocked from across the country. Following World War II, Texas underwent a seismic shift. Texas transformed into an industrial powerhouse, with oil driving the change. The 1950s ushered in the era of suburbanization. Affordable automobiles and newly developed highways spurred the growth of suburbs around the cities like Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. The 1960s marked the dawn of the space age in Texas. In 1961, NASA established the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston. The famous phrase, "Houston, we have a problem," underscores Texas' central role in the exploration of the final frontier. In the 1980s, Texas rode the wave of economic boom. The economy diversified into high-tech industries, with Austin emerging as the major tech hub. In recent decades, Texas has shown remarkable growth. Its economy ranks second largest in the U.S., only behind California, driven by industries like energy, technology, agriculture, commerce, and healthcare. Houston's energy sector thrives. Austin's tech scene buzzes with innovation. Dallas stands as a global city, and San Antonio's rich culture attracts tourists worldwide. As we enter the 21st century, Texas is a state of contrasts and contradictions. It's home to some of the fastest growing cities in the country, yet also vast rural areas. It has a booming economy, yet faces challenges like income inequality and access to healthcare. The state is a focal point in the national debates on issues like immigration, voting rights, and gun control. Its large size and diverse population opt to make Texas an epicenter for trends and issues that affect the rest of the country. Texas stands at the precipice of exciting changes. Its population, already the second largest in the nation, is expected to double by 2050. Economically, Texas is poised to continue its growth. It's predicted that by 2025, Texas will become the 10th largest economy in the world. The diversification of its economy away from oil and gas towards technology, healthcare, and renewable energy will be key to sustaining this growth. From its inception, Texas has seen many nations call it their own, but Texas will always hold a spirit of independence.